bewitching hour.
Yeah, so hello, welcome back to another metal review with Melkor. I hope you're having a really unholy witching hour. You excuse me 1 minute, my throat's a little parched here. I need to take a quick swig of brandy. It's pretty good, it tastes like vanilla. So yeah. So anyway, sorry about that. I've been working really hard on my albums, and I might send the next video, if you're good little boys and girls, I will read you some of the lyrics. I might even give you a little taste of what it will sound like. But for the most part, we're going to be discussing very, I would say, like, as influential black metal bands called Bathory. Now, the Bathory is like first wave metal band, black metal, excuse me. Oh, it's not like the Emperor to make a mistake like that, but anything's possible at the witching hour, especially when, it's the time of fighting. So anyway, so Bathory was the Swedish extreme metal band formed in Valenberg or whatever, it's one of those countries. And so around the March, these areas, since the 1983. And, so anyways, they basically, so Bathory, we've kind of discussed her when we were discussing the Venom album. She's very much white material. Alright, she was a Hungarian first of all, timeouts, hang on. I know most people who watch these videos are pretty stupid, so we've discussed this in other videos about how stupid people are. As they have no attention spans because they're on their phones on the talk tick and they can't even focus for fucking 8 seconds today. But anyway, so there's the Hungarian countess who is a vampire, she Nosferatu, she drinks the blood and worships Satan. So she's, you can't find too many girls like that these days. You find ghost women, but when you try to worship Satan and kill people, they run away and call the cops. But anyways, so the band is named after this Hungarian countess who is totally hot, right? And this band is basically pioneers in black metals, new flash for you all, so you have the Venoms, the Hellhammers, and Merciful Fates, King Diamond. Thanos! Oh no, he shouldn't sound like that. He should sound more like this. So anyways, that's the black metals. So, the one's books that's not Poser, it's called The Lords of Chaos. And it's basically, I was gonna read for you here, or try to read. Describe Bathory's first 4 albums as the blueprint for Scandinavian black metals, right? So they basically, in 1983 or whatever, Quorthon, he's basically a badass guitarist. He's 17 years old, he's been blessed by Satan at such a young age. But his friends called him A-Shot, so I know it's gonna get into it. It's kind of, I'm sure you'll realize that it's kind of like a sexual joke, and those who understand how awesome Motorhead are. First of all, fuck you, you're a poser if you hate Motorhead. So many people try to say, Emperor, you are the best gatekeeper, you vanquish posers on the left and on the right and up and down and in the center and the northwest and the east. Vanquish posers everywhere on the pentagrams, right? How can you like Motorhead? Fuck you, I'll kill you, I'll sacrifice you to Satan if you talk shit shit about Motorheads, okay? So basically, they have everybody knows the song Ace of Spades, which I understand if people know a song, there's a poser, but it's different from Motorhead, okay? I could make a 12-hour video discussing Motorheads. So basically, they took the song Ace of Spades and Sharpshooter, and unfortunately, it's supposed to band Keith. So, you know, it's Ace Friday. And they combined it, and that was his nickname. So we're just kind of gonna move on there, because that's kind of always upsets Impo Melkor. And but anyways, they had this bassist, and his name was Frederick Malander, who they called, so I can't even pronounce it, but it's Hanoi or something, you know, so I don't know. And they had the drummer. The drummer is really good, especially on their first albums. But we'll talk about the album soon. I just want to kind of go and do, like, I'm gonna go ahead and steal from the Gill-boys and do a deep dive. So we're gonna swim in the lagoon. We're gonna go. So we're gonna dive deeper. Yeah, what a fucking poser that bitch is. I drink his fucking brandy. Don't give a fuck. But anyways, so the drummer is Jonas Ackerlands, and that's not to be confused with the Jonas Brothers, okay? So, shut up. This is not them. But his other name is Vance McBurger. And it's not to be confused with the cheeseburger, which sounds really good right now, especially at the witching hours. I know every time I do my rituals on these times, I get really hungry for some meats. But anyways, according to Quorthon's, he basically, you know, they all kind of come together and they're like, we're going to call ourselves Bathory. Especially after they visited some of the London dungeon and stuff, right? But they also said, you know, like I said in the previous videos, especially the ones when we talked about the Venoms, about how Venoms basically, you know, inspired so many of the black metals. So they have one of the best songs on there. You know, I said, you know, name 3 songs. I said name 3 songs, and no one could do it except for the Emperor. But one of the songs that I said for you to name was Countess Bathory. So there you go. These posers, I mean, these artists, excuse me, they're not posers. Sorry, just maybe. See, that's what I'm talking about. It's hard to create a black metal band because somebody always likes Kiss or something like that. Or, you know, or they like bands that you shouldn't like, and how can you like a band that you shouldn't like and be black metal? But it's anyways, the Venoms with their song inspired them, and they was like, sure, we'll just call ourselves the Bathory. And you know, that song was based on, you know, the ultimate wife material for black metals people's black metals means, right? One day I'll find my Elizabeth Bathory and we'll drink blood together and bathe in blood. So anyways, I know I gotta be careful on YouTube because they get pissed off if you speak truth. But a cool little deep dive fun fact here at the Lagoon, I'm sorry, I'm in the basement, yeah, Satan, is that the band was originally going to call themselves Nosferatu, right? Imagine that, you know? And they also thought, well, maybe we'd call ourselves Mephisto. But then again, you know, I'm talking about the actual demon, not that fucking, you know, poser Marvel fans, you know, oh my god, it's in the Ironheart Soul Mephisto, or Borat's Mephisto, shut the fuck up, poser, we're talking about Meta! And it's a real demon, okay? He's real, okay? He fell long time ago from the heaven because he realized, you know, he was a little late to the party, you know, okay? You know, sometimes, but, you know, that's how posers are. Sometimes they are late, but when they fall, then you have to embrace them because they're no longer posers. And, you know, you have to be kind of considerate. Sorry, we'll move on. But they ended up saying, well, maybe we should call ourselves Natas. But they were like, no, we like the Venoms. You know, who doesn't like Venoms? Like I said, if you can't name 3 songs, you fake bands. So this is around the same time periods where a lot of posers were realizing they were posers and they didn't want to be posers anymore. So a lot of you who are watching my videos, you're posers, and you're like, well, we don't want to be posers anymore, so Goddess Melkor, so I'm guiding you, okay? And so basically, they're like, we're going to call ourselves after the greatest woman who ever lived in history, and that's Elizabeth Bathory, Countess Bathory from the black metals. And I know I kind of threw a little shade at the band's Ghost, but they have a good song, okay? I'll say this, they got good songs called, the good song called Elizabeth, and it's also about the same, it's about the Countess, who, you know. But anyways, we're gonna not talk about the poser music, we're gonna talk about the real black metal. So basically, after all of this, the members of this band, Bathory, they're like, let's go ahead and record our first full-length album. And some of the bandmates that they originally had, they kind of moved away, right? It's kind of interesting. If Hollywoods were true Satanists, because they're poser Satanists, okay? They sit here and act like they want to drink children's bloods, but there's too much pussies to make real children's bloods. But anyways, side note, they should make a movie about this band, because it's true black metal, it's true Satanism, right? Or it's, yeah, so basically they recruited another member of the band, and his name was Richard Bergman, and there's from some kind of punk rock bands, you know, the punk crowds, okay, you know, fuck the establishment, Satan, I get it, you know. And they had this bassist who slapped the bass pretty good. His name is Stefan Larsson. And they basically got this kind of new group together, and on the May, which is a great holiday, you know, May 1st is great. It's one of the best satanic holidays of all time, but it wasn't on May Day. It wasn't on, you know, the Walpurgis stuff. It was actually on May 22nd, and that's a mystical number, but we're here to discuss metal, not black magics. So I was in 1984s, and they had their first, and they rehearsed together, and they did the albums, and the 2 songs that they did were Witchcraft and Satan My Master. So very, you know, beautiful, unholy songs that everyone should listen to, and all that good stuff, right? So this is basically they, you know, they are the first versions of the bands, and the first album was called The Bathories, and it was recorded in June. And at Heaven Shore Studios, which was basically a garage that was converted into a studio in Stockholm. So that can't get more metals than that. You know, most bands start out as, you know, you come over, you know, we play in the garage or whatever. You know, I live in Gill-boy's basement, but, you know, I'm like, when I play sometimes with my bassist, speaking of which, I just want to clear the air, because I know I mentioned some stuff about my bassist in the other video. I am hiring for a new bassist, so if you're interested in making music, true metal, black metal, music with the Emperor Melkor, the comments below. I need a bassist and a new drummer. Unfortunately, my drummer, he was sick. I mean, he left. We had creative differences, and I did what always needs to be done to poses. So anyways, I need a new drummer and I need a new bassist. I'm a singer. I got a guitarist, but you know, she's kind of well, anyways, I kind of need a whole band. I need new members. Okay, I'll just go ahead and say that. But anyway, so if you're interested, let me know. So basically, they recorded their first album. It was released in October, and then, you know, throughout the years, they released other albums called The Return and Under the Side of the Black Mark. And then, of course, Blood, Fire, Death in 1988, so whatever, right? And so, basically, Bathory's early work was dark, it was fast, and heavily distorted. Yeah, and it was a raw recording, kind of like lo-fi sound kind of thing, which is truly black metal. And the vocalist, which is Quorthon, I should probably have specified that, but because I know all of you are stupid and posers and only listen to Volbeat and Disturbed and all of that poser music, but he is basically the vocalist, right? But he has harsh vocals, and he has got a very high-pitched, raspy voice, kind of like the Demon Bells. But y'all are probably too pussy to summon him, but that's what he sounds like when the bells speak. He sounds like the singer of the Bathories. And, but he he does some shrieks and some screams, and the lyrics of all the albums, are very anti-Christian, which is good, and satanic, which is also beautiful and good. And this kind of styles of the music really ended up kind of defining the black metal. Guys, and they were the traits that defined it into black metals, and the kind of is the same sounds on their like fourth albums, right? Okay, and so the one thing that's kind of a little disappointing, but first of all, let me get up and show you the cover of the album here. So this is one of the original, Mind the Goods coming down, yeah. But anyway, so I got this, and I stole this from Gill-boy, because he don't need to listen to it, because he's too busy being a poser. But you could tell, I know a lot of non-posers are going to be really excited seeing this, because they're like, oh my god, Emperor is that the first pressing, and yeah, it is. So look at it, isn't it beautiful? So, yeah, you could probably sell this record and go to college these days and learn a lot. And yeah, look at the back, isn't that beautiful? Yeah, what's the best symbol in the world right there? So unfortunately, as brutal and as awesomely satanic as this is, they said that he's not really a Satanist, so it's just kind of, a little poser. But I wanted to provoke Christians and Christianity, which is a good thing, because fuck them. Fuck them all, they live the delusions. And they realized that they kind of were like, well, we realize that if you worship Satan or talk too much about Satan, it's still you're Christian. And it's like, well, it's so confusing to the emperor here, because they're like, well, it's still a product of Christianity, because they're talking about Lucifer and Satan, and it's all religious hocus pocus. So right as they've never seen the bright morning star, the dawn of Aurora, it's a beautiful Lucifer. They don't understand anything. So anyways, it kind of makes me want to break this record in half, because they're fucking poses, but it's good songs. Okay, I can try to be open-minded and realize some do not think the same as Emperor Melkor, but what's the fun and not believing in the Dark Lords. But anyways, we're going to kind of move on from that. So this is some people are like, well, this album is a mixture of Black Sabbath, Motorhead, and some other poser band, and they have what's the album called? City Baby Attacked by Rats, GBH or something, or whatever. But the Motorheads is Ace of Spades and Iron's Feast, And so they was influenced by these sounds, as well as the Sex Pistols. Who doesn't like Sex or Pistols? So that's a good band. And the Disorder Rat Clone and some other stuff, and of course Kiss. So, that's what I was saying. The early first waves of black metals was basically a bunch of posers as who were like, well, we don't really want to be posers, but we are posers, so we're gonna try to make music that are not for posers and not be posers, but they're still posers. So it's kind of confusing. That's why second wave, third wave black metal is true black metal, because they do understand Satan's real and we should worship him and kill our enemies and fuck humanity and stuff like that. So anyways, we've already discussed the origin of black metal with the Venom videos, but for those who don't have the attention span to spend every witching hour with Melkor, the black metal came from the Venoms and the 1982 album of the same name. And many fans and reviewers have claimed Venom was the influence on Bathory. And I would have to say, as the all-knowing emperor, that that is kind of true. And honestly, the Bathory kind of copied Venoms, but some say that's not true, but those people are wrong, and the Emperor Melkor is never wrong. So basically, the singer Quorthon, denied being influenced by Venom, but you named your band off the best song of Venom's album, and he's like, well, I haven't heard Venom until 1984, early 19... Okay, whatever. So see, now you're trying to be like the Father Lucifer and lie. So who's a poser? It's like, I can't tell. You're just trying to be a true Satanist, or you don't know what Satanism is, and you're just poser. Who knows? Anyways, you make great music, but so, But anyways, he does a minute eventually, and this one's Metal Magazines that you probably don't know, because the poser is called Metal Forces. That he first listened to Venom in the black metal's albums that we did in others very popular videos here at the Lagoons at 1983. And considered it one of the best albums ever made. And I have to say, okay, as much as I disagree with his poser on some things, he's true on that. But, this band, Bathory's sound, at least as far as their, early sound is considered, or rather they've been kind of associated with Slayer. And but of course he's like, well, we're not influenced by Slayer, but bullshit. I mean, come on. I thought fucking Carrie King was the lead guitarist on this album the first time I heard it. So, anyways, as usual with some black metals bands, they're so brutal that they can't even play live anymore because they're too brutal. So it's around the 1984, 85. I think it's 1985, maybe 86. I don't know. Anyways, they stopped playing live basically because they said it was too much hassle. So you take that as you will on all of that. But for the most part, this album is very good. It's brutal. It heavily influenced Emperor Melkor. And I will just go ahead and say, and then we'll go back to this album and we'll discuss the songs on the albums. But the Bathory goes through a different, I would say, maybe after the first three, no, I think it's fours. Basically, after the first four albums, they sound differently. They're kind of like fantasy metal or something like that. They're not black metals anymore. They're like fantasy metals. They sing about lakes and swords that have been blessed by fairies or gods or whatever. It's still, it's okay, but it's not the black metal. It's not about Satan, so who cares, right? I know it's the witching hour to talk more about Satan, so we're going to do that now. So anyways, this is the first pressing of the first album. Isn't it beautiful, right? I know some say, well, there was also a second pressing that looks the same as the first pressing, but who really knows, because they have the same barcodes. So it's pretty much the first pressing, and it is. And if you disagree, then you can go and fucking die, and I hope you die painfully. So anyways, this is a great album. It's a definitive album in black metals. You have this in your collection, you're automatically not a poser. So it's called Side Darkness, which I understand you're stupid, so it's side A. It's kind of like, it's like, so again, it's like the Venoms. And then the side B is the side Evil. And so the first side's got the song called Hades, right? And what I love so much about this album is you put it on and it sounds like you're in a dungeon, that's right, and you hear all this thing that would later be called Dungeon Sith, which kind of becomes inclusive within the black metal genre and scene. And so it's really good. I know when I meet people and they're like, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, Melkor? And I'm like, first of all, it's Emperor Melkor. And they're like, yes, Emperor Melkor. Do you want to play the D and B, the D and C, the D and C is the Dungeons and Dragons you want to play? And I'm just like, of course, if I'm of Warlocks. And they're like, sure. And so then I sneak this album on. They think we're going to be listening to ambient music, and then they get exposed to the great music of Bathory. And, sometimes it pisses off the Mormons and Christians and the others, whatever, but fuck them, right? So they get to hear good music and that stuff. And so it's good for your D&D campaign, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. So after the Dungeon Sith songs, you get into the song called Hades, and it's really brutal. It's really good. It's about Satan, although I know it's kind of confusing because it's based off of the Greek and the Roman stuff. But if you think about it, Hades is pretty black metal even within that pantheon, since he has the hot goth woman that he forces to be with him. So that's pretty metal, But anyways, we don't want to get sidetracked and talking about mythology. We want to talk about Satan. And so we get into the next song, and that's called Reaper. And that's kind of what they call me in the never mind. So then, of course, we have this discussion many times before. And that's the next song. It's called Necromancy. And you really cannot have a song and consider yourself a black metal band without at least one song at all within your songs about necromancy. Yeah. And then we finish off the Side Darkness, Side Ace, called Sacrifice. And my drummer really liked this. Helene. But yeah, so this is pretty much the side A. Sorry, I got distracted there. Every time I hear that song, it reminds me of stuff. And the other ones reminded me of my biceps. But check it out. You see that side A right there? That's the side darkness, right? Okay? And then the side evil. Let's look at that. Satan right there. The sign of the horns, right? The Aggies. Yeah, right? The football team. Go Aggies, right? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so Side Evil is in conspiracy with Satan. Now this song is one of the best songs ever made. And it's basically describes my entire life. As, when I was in school, a lot of people would say that I was a Satanist. That I was like, well, yeah. And they're like, well, you're going to hell. And I'm like, I hope so. That's the whole point, Well, they're not very smart, are they? So, I was in conspiracy with Satan and they're in conspiracy with Jesus. So who cares about them poses, right? Then we go straight into the song called Armageddon, and that's a great song because I hope it comes soon, you know. So it'd be nice if all those people would go into the sky and realize that they're posers. And they won't go into the sky because that's not real. That's not even what the ancient posers believed. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Or there in for a surprise whenever. So, anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked here, not talking about the great metal bands, but one day, people who talk to me in schools, you're going to know that Emperor Melkor was right about everything all along. It's gonna be kind of like that one's ghost song Year Zero. Yes, no, that's the only good song they have. But anyways, Rise the Dead. So again, we've got kind of another songs about zombies and necromancies and the witch Endor. And no, I'm not talking about Lord of the Rings. I'm talking about the biblical witch Endors. Who was, the King Saul's, because he was like, I need to know about something, so can you raise the dead so I can speak to this guy and know how to kill my enemies? So that's when the King Saul stopped being a poser and became black metal and did what needed to be done. And then we end with the greatest song on the album, which is what the whole world runs on, A War. And so it's a great album. You'll really understand how powerful Satan is by the time you're done listening to this album. And hopefully you will see the true lights. Alright? So, yeah, it's a great album. And we're going to go ahead and put it back in its sleeve because it's worth quite a bit of money. And if I need to get a car or something or be able to afford a vacation, maybe I can just sell this album. But if I do sell the albums, then I'll be a poser. It'd be like be like I'm like this, and then if I sell the album, I'm like this. It's who wants to be an upwards pentacle? You want to be upside down. Fuck creation, death. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Basically, buy this album, steal it, whatever you can, bootleg it, who cares, right? Fuck capitalism, Get this album, listen to it. It should be on YouTube. It'd be great to see this band live, but, they're just too busy not being able to play instruments for reals, so they can't tour us. But it's a great album, and I would highly recommend it for your collection, because how else can you cease to be a poser? I mean, honestly, I don't want to kind of shout out Gill-boy here, but he has a couple of Disturbed records. I know, it's pretty bad, but he has this, so it kind of negates it in a way. But honestly, I guess he doesn't really have this album anymore because it now belongs to Emperor Melkor. But anyways, I hope you really enjoyed that album. It's really definitive of the black metal community and the black metal scene, and it really inspires you, and it should inspire you as a poser to maybe not be a poser and start listening to better music. Better things. But yeah, anyways, I'm really happy that you spent at least over 30 minutes with me during the switching hour. But to understand, you're not a poser, so you might need to, finish up your spells or listen to the album and complete the witching hour in its entirety so you can continue to be an unholy abomination for Satan. So until next time, always stay brutal and stay metal and never forget that you should kill anyone who slightly disagrees with you on any topics at all. Until the next witching hour,